My name is Clara Evans, and I'm 29 years old. I spun my tech company out of a cluttered dorm room while the world told me to get my head out of the clouds. Today, as I sat at my own graduation with my family in the audience, a text message from my father landed like a stone in my gut. But what happened just moments later would change the course of my life forever. 4 long years of caffeine-fueled nights, gut-wrenching rejections, and relentless sacrifice had all funneled into this single moment when my phone vibrated twice in the span of 5 minutes. The first message shattered me. The second one made history. My father, Robert Evans, was a self-made man, a titan of industry who revered his business instincts and traditional family values. In our household, tradition had a very specific meaning. Business was a man's world, and a woman's place was to support that world. Since I was a little girl, I'd watched my father meticulously mold my older brothers, Leo and Mark, to one day inherit Evans Industrial Machinery. He'd take them to the sprawling factory on Saturdays, lecturing them on supply chains, profit margins, and the art of command. When I was 8, I asked if I could go too. My father just chuckled and ruffled my hair. "That's all boring stuff, princess," he'd said. "Why don't you go help your mother get dinner on the table?" My mother, Helen, was the quintessential executive's wife. She orchestrated flawless dinner parties for his clients, kept our home looking like a magazine spread, and never ever challenged my father in front of others. In the quiet moments, she'd sometimes whisper words of encouragement, but they always ended with, "Just don't let your father find out." I know she loved me, but she had settled into her designated role and assumed I would eventually do the same. Despite this profound lack of family support, my knack for mathematics and computer science was undeniable. In the 3rd grade, I won the state-level math Olympiad, beating kids 2 years older than me. My father came to the award ceremony, but his only comment afterward was that it was cute how much I enjoyed my little number games. When my teacher called home, buzzing about my potential and suggesting I be placed in advanced programs, my father thanked her with practiced politeness, and then the conversation was never mentioned again. By the time I reached high school, I'd taught myself to code using online resources and had built a scheduling application for the school's extracurriculars, which the administration actually adopted. A local paper did a small piece on it. My father glanced at the article and grunted, "Computers are a fad. Real business is done face to face." For their 16th birthdays, my brothers got brand new sports cars. I got a laptop, which my father deemed practical for schoolwork. He had no idea that this laptop would become the crucible where I forged the first lines of code for what would become Aegis Vault, my company, specializing in decentralized data integrity protocols for corporations. When it came time for college applications, I applied to Caltech without breathing a word to my parents. My guidance counselor, seeing the spark my own family ignored, helped me navigate the entire process. The day the thick acceptance envelope arrived, my mother's eyes lit up with genuine pride, but it was quickly overshadowed by anxiety about my father's reaction. "What on earth are you going to do at Caltech?" He scoffed over dinner that night when I broke the news. "Waste 4 years of your life when you could be getting a real education in the world?" He gestured vaguely, as if to encompass all of reality. "Technology is mostly smoke and mirrors. Look at all these .coms going bust." "It's the best engineering school in the country, Dad," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Engineering isn't for girls, Clara. You'll struggle, you'll get discouraged, and you'll drop out. Then what?" "I won't drop out," I promised, the words feeling small in the face of his certainty. It took weeks of tense arguments, but he finally, grudgingly, agreed to pay for my first year at Caltech, but with a list of conditions. I had to maintain a perfect 4.0 GPA, work a part-time job to cover all my living expenses, and call home every single week to report on my progress. 1 year, he said, pointing a finger at me. Then we'll see if you're just wasting my money. The night before I was due to fly to Pasadena, my mother perched on the edge of my bed. "Your father, he means well," she said softly. "He just wants to protect you from being disappointed." "He doesn't believe in me," I said, zipping the last of my clothes into a suitcase that felt far too light. "He doesn't understand you," she corrected. "Maybe one day you can make him see." I snapped the suitcase shut, a new resolve hardening inside me. "I'll make him see. I promise you that." As I boarded the plane the next morning, my father's final words to me echoed in my ears. "When this tech fantasy of yours inevitably fails, there will always be a receptionist job waiting for you at Evans Industrial." I stared out the airplane window, watching my hometown shrink into a grid of lights below, and I made a silent vow. I would never answer the phones at my father's company. I would build something of my own, something so undeniably successful that even Robert Evans couldn't wave it away. I just had no idea how completely that vow was about to change my life. Caltech was everything I had ever dreamed of, and 1,000 times more demanding than I'd feared. During orientation, I found myself surrounded by people who were, without exception, the smartest people from wherever they came from. For the first time, nobody looked at me and questioned if I belonged in a lab because I was a woman. The only question that mattered was whether I could keep up. The workload was astronomical. I was taking a full slate of computer science and business courses while working 20 hours a week at the campus coffee shop to fulfill the pact I'd made with my father. My roommate Maya joked she only ever saw me either asleep or with a textbook in my hand. I'd get back from my shift at 10 p.m., study until 3 a.m., crash for 4 hours, and then start the whole punishing cycle over again. "You're going to burn out," Maya warned me one night, finding me slumped over my keyboard. "I can't afford to," I mumbled, splashing my face with cold water. "My dad's only paying for this first year. After that, it's scholarships or I'm done." By midterms, I was running on fumes, but I was academically soaring. I aced my Introduction to Algorithms class, which caught the eye of Professor David Reed, who would become my most important mentor. "Evans," he called out after a lecture, "that decentralized integrity protocol you proposed for the lab project, have you ever thought about its commercial potential?" I hadn't. I'd been too focused on survival to think about innovation. But Professor Reed saw something in my code that I'd missed. The financial and healthcare sectors would pay a fortune for that level of data security, he said. "Come by my office hours. Let's talk." Those office hours were the turning point. Professor Reed helped me refine my core concept and introduced me to a few grad students working on related problems. For the first time, I started to think bigger than just grades and my father's approval. By the second semester, I'd pulled together a small, dedicated team. There was Ben, a coding prodigy with a background in network security; Aisha, who had an intuitive grasp of user interface design; and Liam, whose sharp business mind was the perfect complement to my technical skills. We started meeting in my dorm room on Sundays, sketching out what would eventually become Aegis Vault. Our vision was simple but revolutionary: create a data integrity system for businesses that was both completely tamper-proof and incredibly easy to implement. Most security solutions force a trade-off between protection and usability, I explained to the group. We can build something that offers both, without compromise. My father still called every Sunday night like clockwork. The conversations were always the same sterile script. "How are your grades?" he'd ask. "All A's," I'd reply. "And the job?" "Still got it. Picking up extra shifts for the holidays." "Good. Any thoughts on what you're going to do when this year is up?" I never mentioned our startup. I knew exactly what he would say. Just another delusion from my fantasy world. In April of my freshman year, we had a functioning prototype. Professor Reed pushed us to enter the university's annual startup competition, which came with a $75,000 prize in seed funding. "We're not ready," I protested. "You're more ready than you realize," he insisted. "The judges need to see this." The night before the competition, I called my mom instead of my dad. "I might have a chance to win some money tomorrow," I said, choosing my words carefully. "For a business idea." "Oh, that's wonderful, honey," she said. "What kind of business?" I explained our data protocol as simply as I could. "Your father always says business is about solving problems," she said when I was done. "It sounds to me like you're solving a very important one." "Do you think he'd be proud?" I asked, hating how small and young my voice sounded. There was a beat of silence. "I think he'd be surprised," she answered with devastating honesty. "But one day, he will be proud. I already am." The next day, we won first place and the $75,000 in seed funding. The university's press release featured a picture of our team holding a comically oversized check. I emailed the link to my parents. My father's reply came a few hours later. "I see you're playing entrepreneur with the university's money. Focus on your grades." That summer, instead of going home, I stayed in Pasadena and poured my life into Aegis Vault. The prize money let us rent a tiny, windowless office off campus and pay ourselves just enough to survive on ramen and coffee. I called my father to let him know I wouldn't need his money for my sophomore year. "So you're dropping out," he said, and I could hear the note of grim satisfaction in his voice. I got a full academic scholarship. I'll be continuing my studies while we build the business." There was a long pause on his end. "Businesses need customers, Clara. They need revenue. Who's buying this computer program of yours?" I didn't have an answer for that yet. We had 0 customers and 0 revenue. "That's what I thought," he said. "Well, good luck with your scholarship. At least you're not wasting any more of my money." Sophomore year, I switched to part-time status, funneling most of my energy into Aegis Vault. We worked 18-hour days, refining the product and pitching it to anyone who would listen. The rejections were relentless. "Nobody trusts critical security software from a bunch of college kids," Liam lamented after our 15th failed pitch. "Then we need to stop looking like college kids," I declared. We scraped together some money for a rebranding, created polished marketing materials, and practiced our pitch until we could recite it in our sleep. And then, finally, a small private equity firm agreed to take a chance on us. The day their first payment of $10,000 cleared, I took the team out for pizza. As we celebrated, I thought about calling my father, but I stopped myself. I wanted our success to be so absolute, so undeniable, that even he couldn't find a way to dismiss it. Little did I know that first client would soon lead to 5 more, and those 5 would lead to a dozen more. By the end of my sophomore year, Aegis Vault was generating enough revenue to hire 2 full-time developers and move into a real office. I wasn't just a student anymore. I was a CEO. Our early success was both a blessing and a curse. Our growing client list brought with it growing pains, and we were still a company run by students trying to learn on the fly. The summer after sophomore year, we hit our first real crisis. A financial client suffered a major data breach. It wasn't our fault. They had misconfigured our software, ignoring our clear installation protocols. But they went public. blaming our inexperienced team and threatening to sue. "We can't afford a lawsuit," Liam warned during an all-hands emergency meeting. "We barely have enough cash to make payroll for the next 3 months." I hadn't slept in 2 days, trying to help the client salvage their data while simultaneously defending our name. "We need a lawyer," I said, my voice hoarse, "and we need money to pay for one," which meant we needed investors. Until now, we'd been bootstrapping, using our competition winnings and early revenue. But a legal battle would vaporize our small bank account overnight. The next 2 weeks were a frantic blur of investor pitches. I built a presentation deck highlighting our technology, our traction, and our team, and I took it to every venture capital firm on Sand Hill Road. The feedback was depressingly uniform. "The tech is promising, but your team is too green. Come back when you have a seasoned CEO at the helm. Have you considered bringing on a male co-founder? It might help with your credibility in the security space." After one particularly brutal rejection, I sat on a park bench and called my mother, something I only did when I felt my resolve cracking. "Maybe Dad was right," I admitted, the words tasting like ash. "Maybe I'm just not cut out for this." "Your father has been wrong about a great many things," she said, her voice firmer than I'd ever heard it. "Don't you dare prove him right by giving up." The very next day, I had a meeting with Eleanor Vance of Artemis Ventures, one of the few female-led VC firms in the Valley. I walked in, sleep-deprived and demoralized, fully expecting another no. Eleanor listened to my pitch without a single interruption. She then asked a series of deeply technical questions that proved she actually understood what we did. Then she leaned forward. "You remind me of myself 20 years ago," she said. "Brilliant, driven, and completely underestimated by every man in the room." My heart started pounding. "I'm going to invest $500,000 for a 10% stake in your company," she continued, "and I'm going to connect you with the best tech lawyer in my network." I almost broke down in tears. "But," she added, holding my gaze, "you have to promise me something. When you succeed, and you will remember what this feels like. To be dismissed because of your age and your gender. And you will pay it forward for the next young woman who walks through your door with a brilliant idea." "I promise," I said, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. With Eleanor's investment, we weathered the legal storm, settling with the client for a tiny fraction of their initial demand. The ordeal taught us to be obsessive about client onboarding and to document everything. It also taught me that the right investor was so much more than just a checkbook. Eleanor became a mentor and a champion. She made key introductions, helped us sharpen our business model, and coached me on how to be a leader. By the end of my junior year, Aegis Vault had 15 employees and a converted warehouse office in Palo Alto. We were generating steady revenue, though still not profitable as we reinvested everything back into the company. Each new hire was a mix of exhilaration and terror. These people were betting their careers on my vision. What if I let them down? What if my father was right all along? The pressure started to manifest physically. I developed chronic insomnia and blinding stress migraines. I lost 15 pounds without even noticing. My academic advisor called me in, concerned about my slipping grades. "You have to choose, Clara," she said gently. "The company or the degree. You can't keep doing both at this pace." I chose the company, but I negotiated to stay enrolled part-time. It would take me longer to graduate, but I refused to become a dropout. I wouldn't give my father that satisfaction. Our big breakthrough came in the fall of my senior year. Our team pioneered a major innovation in our core protocol, making it exponentially more secure and efficient. When we announced the update, our client list exploded from regional businesses to national corporations. Our monthly recurring revenue tripled in 60 days. We had to hire rapidly just to keep up with demand, moving to a bigger office and bringing in senior professionals who commanded salaries that made my eyes water. It was a calculated gamble. We needed their expertise to scale without collapsing. One of those new hires was Sarah Jenkins, a seasoned CFO who had guided 2 other startups to successful acquisitions. At 52, she was more than 2 decades older than me and brought a calm, steadying presence to our chaotic, youthful company. "You've got something special here," she told me during her first week, "but you're growing too fast without the right financial controls. Let me help you build a business that lasts, not just a cool piece of tech." Under Sarah's guidance, we completely overhauled our pricing, tightened our cash flow, and started having serious conversations about our long-term strategy. For the first time, I had a leadership team that wasn't just my college friends. When we signed our first Fortune 500 client, a massive healthcare conglomerate, I finally called my father with news I thought even he couldn't dismiss. "Dad, Aegis Vault just signed a 7-figure contract with OmniHealth," I said, the pride thick in my voice. There was a pause. "That's a significant client," he finally acknowledged. "But tech companies are a dime a dozen, Clara. How sustainable is this business of yours? We have 40 employees now, consistent double-digit growth, major clients. Are you profitable?" We weren't, not yet. We were reinvesting every dollar back into growth. "I thought so," he said when I didn't answer right away. "Be careful this doesn't distract you from finishing that degree. You'll need something to fall back on when this tech bubble of yours bursts." I hung up the phone, feeling completely deflated. Would anything I ever did be enough? That night, I was working late, going over financial models with Sarah. "Your father still doesn't get it, does he?" she asked. I hadn't realized she'd overheard my call. "He never will," I sighed. "My father was the same way," she said, surprising me. "He thought a woman's place was in the home. He never once came to see my corner office at Goldman Sachs." "How did you deal with it?" I asked. She smiled. I stopped trying to get his approval and started demanding his respect. They're 2 very different things. You might never get the first one, but you can absolutely command the second. Her words stuck with me. I would stop trying to make my father proud. Instead, I would build something so undeniably successful that respect was the only logical response. The 18 months after that breakthrough were a blur of hypergrowth. Aegis Vault rocketed from 40 employees to over 120. We outgrew our office twice, finally landing in a sleek glass tower in downtown San Francisco with our logo proudly displayed at the entrance. Every morning, walking into that building filled me with a cocktail of pride and sheer terror. So many people were counting on me. "You need to raise a proper Series A round," Sarah advised as our cash reserves started to shrink despite our soaring revenue. "We need serious capital to fuel this kind of growth." The thought of pitching VCs again brought back a wave of nausea, but Aegis Vault was a different beast now. TechCrunch ran a feature on us titled, "Aegis Vault, the female-founded security startup taking the enterprise world by storm." My mother sent me the article with a simple text, "So proud of you, honey." My father didn't reach out, but I heard from my brother Leo that he'd seen it. He asked if your company was really worth that much, or if it was all just investor hype, Leo told me. "What did you say?" I asked. "I told him to read the damn article," Leo said. "For what it's worth, I think what you're doing is incredible. Mark does too, even if he'd never admit it to Dad." My brothers and I had become distant. They had both gone straight to Evans Industrial after college, following the path of least resistance. I always wondered if they resented my rebellion or secretly envied it. With our Series A funding secured, we expanded aggressively. The personal toll was immense. I hadn't taken a real vacation in 3 years. My diet was mostly takeout eaten at my desk. My last relationship had fizzled out because I couldn't promise more than one evening a week. "You need to delegate," Sarah urged, finding me asleep at my desk again. "This company can't run on just you." "I'm fine," I insisted, though the dark circles under my eyes told another story. "You're killing yourself," she countered, "and that helps no one. Build a leadership team you can trust. Let them carry the weight." Reluctantly, I started to let go, hiring a chief technology officer and a chief operating officer. It was harder than I imagined to relinquish control, but it was essential. As our profile grew, so did our competitors. Large, legacy security firms started trying to copy our features. Some tried to poach our top engineers with ludicrous salary offers. One even tried to hack our systems to steal our source code. The irony was rich. Our own security held firm. We traced the attack, and a strongly worded letter from our lawyers put a stop to it. Through it all, I kept chipping away at my degree, taking 1 or 2 classes a semester online. I was now in my 5th year of college. My father had long since stopped asking about it, probably assuming I'd quietly dropped out. In the spring of that 5th year, my academic advisor called. "You have enough credits to graduate this May," she said, looking over my transcript. "Really?" I had completely lost track. "With honors," she added, smiling. "The commencement committee was actually talking about you." "Me? Why?" "They're thinking of asking you to be the student commencement speaker." "Your story is rather remarkable, Clara." I was floored. "I'm not sure I'd have time to write a speech." "Think about it," she urged. "It would be a powerful message." That night, I called my mother. "I'm graduating in May," I said, "with honors." "Oh, Clara!" Her voice was pure joy. "We'll all be there. Your father, too." "He doesn't have to come," I said quickly. "He's your father. Of course he'll come." Her tone made it clear this wasn't up for debate. The thought of my father at my graduation filled me with a confusing mix of dread and a stubborn, childish hope. Part of me wanted him to see it, to finally have to acknowledge what I'd built. Another part of me just wanted to avoid the inevitable, cutting dismissal. As graduation loomed, Aegis Vault faced its biggest decision yet. Several tech giants had approached us about an acquisition. At the same time, our board was pushing for an initial public offering. "The market is hot right now," Sarah explained during a late-night meeting. "With our growth metrics, we could command a massive valuation." "But are we ready?" I asked. The IPO preparations would be a grueling, all-consuming process, and it would coincide almost exactly with my graduation. We decided to go for it, working with investment banks to prepare our S-1 filing with the SEC. The process was a nightmare of endless meetings with lawyers, auditors, and bankers. The week before graduation, we quietly made our confidential filing. The public announcement would come later. I had declined the offer to give the commencement speech. I just didn't have the bandwidth. I would just be another graduate crossing the stage, albeit one who is running a company valued in the hundreds of millions. My parents and brothers were flying in the day before. It would be the first time I'd seen my father in over 2 years. I booked them a suite at the Ritz-Carlton, a small, silent statement of how far I'd come. The night before graduation, Sarah called me, her voice electric. "The bankers think we should price the IPO higher than we planned," she said. "The institutional demand is off the charts. We're looking at a potential billion-dollar valuation on day one. $1 billion. The number didn't feel real. When will we know for sure? The final pricing happens tomorrow morning." I'll call you the second it's confirmed. Tomorrow morning, graduation morning. As I hung up, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. We've landed. See you at the ceremony tomorrow. We are all so proud. I wondered if all really included my father. The morning of my graduation was clear and perfect, a cloudless Southern California sky. I was up at 5:30, too jittery to sleep. I checked my phone. Nothing from Sarah yet. The bankers on Wall Street would be finalizing the numbers right now. I showered and dressed, trying to focus on the ceremony ahead, on the degree I had so stubbornly pursued. I chose a simple black dress to wear under my gown, and for a moment I just stared at the cap and gown hanging on my door. It felt surreal. My phone rang at 7:15. It was Sarah. We have a preliminary price, she said. No preamble. The underwriters are recommending $42 a share. I did the math in my head. That puts us just over $1 billion market cap on day one, she finished for me. A unicorn at IPO. It's rare, Clara. Really rare. My hands were shaking. When is it final? The pricing committee meets in an hour. We should have confirmation by 9:30. The press release goes out right after. My graduation ceremony started at 10 o'clock. I'll be in the middle of graduation, I said. I know. I'll call you when it's official. Will your phone be on? Yes. On, vibrate. After I hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed. $1 billion valuation. It was the ultimate answer to my father's skepticism, to his playing entrepreneur. I took a deep breath. I had long ago stopped making choices just to prove him wrong. This was about more than him. At 8:30, I walked to campus to meet my family. I saw my mother first, elegant in a pale blue dress. Beside her, my brothers Leo and Mark, both looking awkward in suits. And then my father, his face a stern mask, his posture ramrod straight in a perfectly tailored suit. He looked older. Clara! My mother rushed forward to hug me. We're so proud of you, honey. My brothers gave me quick, stiff hugs. Then I was standing in front of my father. He didn't hug me. He just stuck out his hand, like we were closing a business deal. Congratulations on completing your degree, Clara. Not, I'm proud of you. Just an acknowledgement of a task completed. I shook his hand, a familiar ache of disappointment settling in my chest. Thank you for coming, your mother insisted, he said, as if to clarify he wouldn't be here otherwise. We made stilted small talk as other families laughed and celebrated around us. An announcement called for graduates to start lining up. I have to go, I said. The family seating is in Section C. I'll see you after. We'll be watching for you, my mother called. As I walked away, I heard my father say to my brothers, well, at least she finished the degree. She'll need it when this tech bubble bursts. I joined the line of graduates, adjusting my cap and making sure my phone was on vibrate in a pocket I'd sewn into my dress for this exact purpose. The procession started at 9:45. From my seat, I could see my family. My mother in her blue dress, my father rigid beside her. At 9:52, my phone vibrated, a text from Sarah. Pricing confirmed at $44 per share, final valuation $1.1 billion. Press release goes out in 15 minutes. Congratulations, Clara, you did it. $1.1 billion. My knees felt weak. The ceremony started. I barely heard the speeches, my mind racing. My phone vibrated again at 10:15. The press release was out. In minutes, the business news would be buzzing, and soon, my father would know. As I sat there waiting, my phone vibrated continuously with texts from my team, my investors, my mentors. I ignored them all. Then, at 10:32, a new text from my father. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Don't expect any help from me going forward. You are on your own. The words were a punch to the gut. On this day of all days, this was his message: rejection, abandonment. Tears welled up, but I blinked them back. Not now, not for him. A moment later, they called my name: Clara Marie Evans, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science and Engineering, with honors. I walked across the stage on autopilot. The dean shook my hand, gave me my diploma. I managed a smile for the camera, though inside I felt hollowed out by my father's words. As I stepped off the stage, my phone vibrated again. A call. It was Sarah. I hesitated, then answered, turning my back to the ceremony. "Hello?" Her voice was pure elation. "Clara, the stock is already trading up in the pre-market. The IPO is a massive success. We just blew past $1.2 billion in market cap. Everyone is calling. CNBC wants an interview. Bloomberg too." I was still near the stage, and her excited voice carried. People nearby turned to look. "That's incredible news," I said, my own voice louder than I intended. "A $1.2 billion IPO. I can't believe it." More heads turned. A murmur started to ripple through the graduates near me. "We need to schedule a press conference," Sarah went on, oblivious. "As the CEO of a newly public billion-dollar company, you need to address the media." "I understand," I said, still speaking too loudly. "I'll be at the office as soon as the ceremony is over." I ended the call and looked up. Dozens of eyes were on me. The whispers were spreading. "Billion-dollar IPO, CEO." The words were an electric current through the crowd. I turned and looked toward the family section, and I saw my father's face. He was staring right at me, his expression a mixture of pure shock and utter disbelief. He was holding his phone. He must have just gotten the news alert about Aegis Vault's IPO. The timing was almost poetic. Just minutes after texting me that I was on my own, he discovered his helpless daughter was now the CEO of a public company worth more than $1 billion. Our eyes locked across the auditorium. And for the first time in my life, I saw something new in his gaze. It wasn't pride. It wasn't love. It was respect. The rest of the ceremony was a complete blur. When we filed out, my mother was the first to reach me, waving excitedly. My brother stood beside her, looking stunned. My father stood apart, his face unreadable. "Clara!" My mother hugged me. "Your company is all over the news. Why didn't you tell us?" "It was confidential until this morning, Mom," I explained. My brothers offered awkward congratulations. Thomas asked if I was a billionaire now. "The company is," I clarified. "My ownership stake is significant. On paper, yes, I'm now worth tens of millions." My father remained silent. Finally, he stepped forward. "You kept this from us," he said. "It was an accusation." "The SEC has strict rules," I replied calmly. "And besides, would you have believed me?" I held up my phone. "Your text came through right before they called my name. You are on your own." "Interesting timing, Dad," my mother gasped. "Robert, you didn't." My father's face flushed. I was simply acknowledging her independence. "That's not what you meant, and we both know it," I said, surprised at my own composure. "You've been waiting for me to fail since the day I left for Caltech." People nearby had stopped to listen, their phones pointed in our direction. "This isn't the time or place," my father said stiffly. "I agree," I said. "Let's go to the restaurant. I have a private room." At the restaurant, the host greeted me with a wide smile. "Congratulations on the IPO, Ms. Evans." A bottle of Dom Perignon was chilling on the table with a note from my executive team. As soon as the door to our private room was closed, my father started. "So, this is why you were so secretive, planning your big reveal for maximum effect." "I've been building a business for 5 years," I said. "The IPO is a milestone, not the goal." "A tech business," he scoffed. Built on hype, built on solving real security problems for major corporations, I corrected. We have over 200 enterprise clients, including 40 Fortune 500 companies. And you did all this while supposedly finishing your degree. There was nothing supposed about it, I said, placing my diploma on the table. My mother put a hand on his arm. Robert, our daughter has done something extraordinary. Can't you just be proud? He shook her off. We'll see if this company still exists in 5 years. To my shock, Leo spoke up. Dad, Aegis Vault isn't some fly-by-night startup. I looked them up after I saw Clara in TechCrunch. Their client list is insane. My father stared at him, betrayed. You knew about this? My phone rang. It was Sarah. I hate to interrupt, she said, but CNBC is confirmed for 3 o'clock. We need you here by 2. I returned to the table. I'm sorry, I have to cut this short. I have media obligations. More important than your family? My father demanded. As important as your work has always been, I replied. Something inside me finally snapped. My little computer program, as you call it, I said, my voice dangerously calm, just created over $1 billion in value. It employs over 150 people. It protects the data of millions. I stood up. I did all of this while you were telling me I would fail, while you were grooming my brothers for your business and telling me my best-case scenario was answering phones. The room was dead silent. I didn't build Aegis Vault to prove you wrong, Dad, but your text today, it made one thing perfectly clear. I looked him right in the eye. I have been on my own since the day I left for home, and look what I did without your approval. My mother was crying softly. My brothers looked stunned. My father opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time in his life, Robert Evans was speechless. I have to go, I said. Sarah has a car waiting. Robert, my mother began. It's okay, Mom, I said. We can have dinner tomorrow. You and the boys are welcome to tour the office. I didn't include my father. His expression hardened. I have an early flight, he said stiffly, business to attend to. It always does, I replied. As I turned to leave, he spoke again. Clara, I paused. Congratulations on your IPO, he said, the words sounding like they were physically painful for him to form. It is impressive. Not I'm proud of you. Not I was wrong. Just an admission of the undeniable. Thank you, I said. That might be the first real compliment you've ever given me. I walked out of the restaurant into the bright California sun. A black car was waiting, Sarah standing beside it, beaming. There she is, she said, hugging me. We're up 60% from the IPO price. The market loves us. As I got in the car, I glanced back. My father was standing at the restaurant entrance watching me. I'd imagined this moment for years, and I thought it would feel like a victory. Instead, it just felt like freedom. Freedom from his judgment, freedom from his expectations. As the car sped toward our headquarters, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Eleanor, my first investor. You proved them all wrong. Now go show them what you'll do next. I smiled, looking forward instead of back. What did you think of my story? Have you ever had to fight for your dreams against the people who were supposed to support you the most? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please give it a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that their path is their own. Thanks for listening. And remember, the only approval that truly matters is your own.